Hey guys, Nero back, and welcome back to episode 3 of the How to Search for Mercenary series. Today we're going to be doing the Kineticist, and this is probably going to be the last mercenary that I will be covering for the trade searches, it is going to be the last one that I will play with. As always, the trade links for the various badges are in the description down below, but I want to put a disclaimer here. Kineticist is currently not target farmable on the Atlas tree, which makes any Kineticists that are worth playing already a lot more expensive than any of the mercenaries shown in the previous 2 episodes. You can probably buy a Wild Striker Merc for a 10th of a price with GG 4 or 5 links compared to a 2-link mercenary, as we'll probably later see. Other than that, let's get right into it on how to buy a Kineticist. So first up, let's look at PoE again, what Kineticist can even roll. So we have Elemental Weakness and Flame Wall as the 2 main skills. These will always be the same. So first skill will always be Elemental Weakness, second will be Flame Link. Supports on these do not matter. Personally, I have Greater Curse effect on my Kineticist, which makes the Elemental Weakness actually better than Assassin's Mark if you're still crit capped. So I'm just letting my Mercenary curse everything, and I don't do anything myself anymore for cursing. But yeah, maybe keep that in mind. Other than that, we have 6 different main skills that can roll, which makes getting a good Kineticist even more hard than it already is, basically. Yeah, Kineticists, our main skill that we're looking forward to scaling is Kinetic Blast of Clustering. It is by far the best skill. Don't let anyone tell you that Kinetic Rain of Impact is good, because it's not really good. At least not compared to Clustering. Kinetic Bolt has good clear, has no single target. Power Siphon, I've not even seen any played with it. Barrage is only used in single target for the Mercenary, and I will talk about this a little bit later. Greater Kinetic Blast has a cooldown, a very long cooldown of 8 seconds, and is only then used every 8 seconds or so. And then Kinetic Rain added in this league just does Kinetic Rain of Impact. Does okay-ish damage on very big targets, but is not really good for clearing or anything. So yeah, we're looking at scaling Kinetic Blast of Clustering. If we look at the secondary skills here, we need to make sure that our mercenary is only using Kinetic Blast of Clustering, and there are, I would say, 1.5 skills that do that. Number 1, so the best priority skill that we want to have on our Kineticist as secondary is Greater Kinetic Blast. Since Greater Kinetic Blast has an 8-second cooldown, it means it will only ever be used every 8 seconds, and then Clustering will be used all of the time otherwise, which is perfect for us since we want Clustering on single target and on AoE. Second skill that's still somewhat usable is Barrage. Barrage, the Kineticist really deprioritizes using it. However, Barrage has no cooldown, so technically can be used more often. If I would put it into percentages, I would say Barrage is getting used roughly like 10 to maybe 20% of the time when she's attacking. Other than that, she will use Kinetic Blast of Clustering, and this is also more in like single target scenarios. So Barrage is okay-ish to get on a budget. Otherwise, Greater Kinetic Blast is definitely what we're looking out for. Kinetic Bolt, Power Siphon, and Kinetic Rain of Impact are all bricks. I would never buy a Kineticist with these linked with these skills on the Kineticist, because it just makes them half the time Kinetic Bolt, half the time Clustering. Same with Kinetic Rain of Impact. Half the time Kinetic Rain, half the time Clustering. Loses you basically 50% DPS if you say this one does nothing. For the other skills, we have Flame Dash, Frostblink, Haste, and Inspiring Cry. So Haste is a very strong aura on the Mercenary. It's level 26 Haste, very nice for confidence. Depends a little bit on your Spectre setup on your build. If you're already running the Tiger, then you don't really need Haste. However, if you're not running the Tiger, getting Haste is very strong. It's basically getting another faster attack links on your Clustering. Since it's level 26 aura, it has like, I think, 27% increased attack speed for 26%. Very strong. For movement skills, movement skills are fine to have on the Kineticist, so either Flame Dash or Frostblink here. Both are okay to have. It's not a brick if you have a movement skill on it. It might not be fully ideal, but there is some debates going on about if it's better to have Flame Dash or Inspiring Cry. Because if she casts Inspiring Cry, she's then not attacking with clustering. And with Flame Dash, she just won't Flame Dash on single target or Frostblink on single target, so it's technically more DPS than Inspiring Cry. It's only 25% increased damage, which is basically nothing with how we scale the Kineticist with Revpit. So it makes no sense basically to have Inspiring Cry even on there. So Flame Dash or Frostblink, in my opinion, is better to have. So the perfect Kineticist would look like Elemental Weakness Flame Wall, of course, then Kinetic Blast of Clustering with secondary Greater Kinetic Blast, and then Haste with either Flame Dash or Frostblink. Let's talk a little bit about the supports then on the one we care about, which is Kinetic Blast of Clustering. So clustering is similar into the Pierce/Return setup, how we have it on the Many-Shot Mercenary. So you really want to have Return. Return is double damage for the Kineticist, basically, as long as you have one Pierce crafted, most likely on your helmet. The projectile flies through the target, explodes into all of the explosions, and then returns and explodes again with all of the explosions. So it's straight up double damage. Very, very strong. Secondary, we have GMP that might interact a little bit weird with Kinetic Blast of Clustering. So K-Walk can only ever fire one projectile. So it fires a single projectile from your wand, and then the number of additional projectiles apply to the number of explosions that happen. By default, I think this is 3 explosions, if I'm not wrong. Which would mean that by default you're doing, let's say, 100% damage at 3 explosions if all of them overlap. If you add GMP and the 3 additional overlap as well, you're basically doubling your damage again. Which means GMP is a very, very strong support, and if you like watch your Mercenary on some boss fights, you will see that I would say like 80% of the explosions overlap. It's very, very good to have additional projectiles on Kinetic Blast of Clustering. That's also why you most likely anoint multi-shot on Clustering. Just a very, very strong anoint as well. So our best damage support link Return, our second best is GMP. What we're looking for then, I think, is, or maybe in a secondary priority, is one clear link. So there are 3 clear links here that are all viable. So first up, starting from the best in my opinion, we have Chain. So Chain, in my opinion, best clear link here. Since we already have one Pierce on gear, or we need to have one Pierce on gear for Return, we first need to pierce the target and then hit the secondary target, and then our projectile will start chaining. Every target we hit, we will get explosions, and the chain from the main projectile will continue and do explosions on the next target again. So chain, very strong. Behind chain, I would say is Fork. Fork also very strong on clustering, gives you a bit more dense clear, while chain also covers packs that are a little bit more spread out. But yeah, both are completely viable. And then we have Pierce, I think the weakest of the 3 clearing links, however, still totally viable. If you have Pierce on your K-Walk, you definitely don't want to search for one with Chain or Fork. It won't really do much, since you already have 3 Pierces, and you maybe want to lean into like getting a load of Pierces, maybe getting Hunter Boots, even elevated Hunter Boots can give up to 5 Pierces, crafting it at Helmet. You can reach like 8 Pierces or something. I played with this in Mercenary League itself, and it was still very, very viable. You just don't have this like spread clear. You have more of a inline clear and maybe won't hit everything from the pack immediately. Maybe a little bit worse for coverage, but still totally viable. For building our K-Walk Mercenary, I would say we always want at least one of those 3. It's basically mandatory, I think, to have one of those 3 clearing links together with Return, which we'll see later on in the QE as well. And then we have basically our straight up damage links. There are 3 of these straight up damage links that make sense, and the 4th one that is bait. So let's go over that next. So best damage links is great elemental damage or elemental damage with attacks, just 20/30% more damage. Then, yeah, basically very straightforward. Then we have our critical damage support. So we have either 45% crit multi or 70% crit multi on greater. Also very strong. If you have a little bit weaker gear, then this gets more value. If you have better gear, then this gets a little bit less value. Depends on your abyss jewels a little bit. But this is most likely the second best damage support. And third best is then faster attacks. So faster attacks or greater faster attacks, third best damage support. There's one more here, which is a critical strike chance or greater critical strike chance. This, however, is a complete bait because Kineticist will only ever be played if you already have a lightning resist overcapped chest and once have a base crit of over to like between 10 and 12%, depends on your rolls, which makes it already very easy to crit cap Kineticist Mercenary. Mine, for example, is crit capped even without Assassin's Mark and nearly without power charges. So critical strike chance is a wasted support link on K-Bok, so I would not put any value onto that. The added supports, of course, are very weak again since we're flame link botting. But yeah, that's basically it. Let's look at our trade search. Let's build it out. So let's build out the most minimal mercenary, I would say, is Viber. Let's first up check what we do not want. We do not want Kinet Rain on the mercenary. We do not want Kinet Bolt. We do not want power charge, merc. I don't think power. Sorry. We do not want those. Then we want clustering for sure, and we want return. So this is basically the most minimal setup of a Kineticist that makes sense to buy. You then have here either barrage or greater kinetic blast as secondary. So we can maybe do here a count 1. Greater kinetic blast or barrage. Make sure. If you, for example, want to go for a greater kinetic blast mercenary, you just deactivate barrage. These are basically the ones with like GG secondary skill and return. So this is the minimum. Personally, I would not buy one with barrage, but depends a little bit on your budget. They can sometimes be a lot cheaper with barrage. But this is the minimum I would say is like somewhat buyable. For example, here like pierce return, crit damage. This is, for example, for 7 diff, probably quite a steal, to be honest. However, there's quite a few more things to keep in mind on Kineticist. So we said we want to have at least one clear link as well. Let's add that. Kinetic blast of clustering. And for the next queries, I'll always only use greater kinetic blast because I'm personally not that much of a, don't like that much of a barrage. So keep that in mind. If you don't mind barrage with my explanation I gave you, then feel free to just tick on barrage. So we have pierce, greater pierce, we have fork, and we have chain. And we're looking for at least one of those. So these are our mercenaries that are currently available here. If you want to look for one without pierce, and maybe only either chain or fork, you can deactivate that then as well. It would be a little bit better. You gotta keep in mind though, if you are running queries like this, we need to do another not query. So if you're searching for chain or fork mercenaries, we need to make a node for the pierce. Because we do not want pierce together with chain or fork. But this is basically our kinetic blast of clustering with return, chain, and then whatever else. You can see there's like 10 diff. This is probably what I would consider the minimum viable merc to buy. You still don't have like haste here, but you have return and one clear link. That should be good enough to like do maps, but the single target might not be the greatest yet. Okay, then let's go a step up in budget. I think for mid game, what I'm really looking at is adding in a haste aura. So if we add in here haste on the mercenary, we can already see the price go up quite a bit. So item is in demand 7 minutes ago. this is a very strong mercenary. It's definitely worth more than 15 div. But yeah, we have return, chain with our haste aura. Because this one has return, chain, and alien damage. This is probably gonna get bite. Yeah, this is already on a free link, so very, very strong. Yeah, this is something I would consider in the, I don't know, mid-game-ish. So you have a haste aura, but you're still only on a 2 link. So yeah, keep that in mind. Maybe you can snipe something. Even crit chance can be somewhat useful maybe on some setups. Greater crit damage, for example, not bad. But yeah, this would be like with haste, the minimum version. Okay, so let's add in a little bit more. We have our mandatory return. We have our mandatory clear link. So let's add another search here for DPS links. So we're looking for either elemental damage with attacks or greater LE with attacks or greater multiple projectiles or crit damage. And we're looking for at least one of those. So we have this one for 15 div, underpriced a little bit. Then we are in the 40 div range, 40 to 50 div range. If you want to go specifically look for GMP, some people might say, hey, on a bit higher budget, I would add this to the mandatory skill groups as well. But yeah, as you can see, oops, let's deactivate this, sorry. As you can see, return, GMP, and one clear link, we're looking at over 1 mirror. So these are all over a mirror each. It's just the best, like triple combo, return, GMP, and the clear link. Very, very expensive already. So because we probably most likely can't afford this, it's easier to start off with a non-GMP merc. So you have 40 div here, roughly for chain, return, crit damage, and maybe some added damage stuff. Can be okay again for the taming. Yeah, maybe scroll through there a little bit. If you want to upgrade from the 40 div budget to a little bit higher, just put this one on free. And then we see clustering with return, one clear link, no pierce, and then double damage link. So crit damage, LE damage, or crit damage, crit chance here. No. But yeah, like I said before, these queries can be a little bit buggy, so make sure to like look exactly at what you're buying. Crit damage, elemental damage with attacks. This shouldn't be even in the query here, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, as you can see, this is like 80 to, I don't know, 200 diff roughly, not too many listed here. This would be like a good one before you get into the GMP territory, I would say. Okay, then let's talk about like end game stuff. So with end game, we're definitely looking for at least our clear link, GMP, return, and then we're also going to be looking at one damage link. So one damage link here, either crit damage or any damage with attacks. And for prices here, like you can see, free listed only. It's very, very rare to find some here. From like 1.5 mirrors to 5 mirrors. So this one's definitely not worth 5 mirrors though. It's a very, very bad one. Yeah, I think the query might be a little bit too complicated as well. So you can definitely slim this down a little bit. Because I think some stuff might be breaking here. I will tune that for the description then later. But yeah, as you can see, there are not many listed. I have one query that I used for searching for my KB merc here. We can take a quick look at this one. So I have here, I had mandatory haste, greater KB, and then clustering with return and GMP. Then I wanted either fork or chain, and then no pierce. And then I just scrolled through and looked at what's viable then for damage link. So this one had one damage link, crit damage, because there are not many listed anyways. Yeah, this one has LE damage with attacks. Sorry, that's first my wrong one. This one doesn't have anything. and this one has early damage. So yeah, you need to just look through a little bit on the high budget ones, but normally there are not any GG ones listed. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's hopefully explains somewhat what you're looking for on a Kineticist. Yeah, if you have still any questions about that, feel free to ask in the comments. I will tune those links and put them in the description then as well. And hopefully you then can pick yourself one out if you want to transition to Kineticist. It is very expensive, keep that in mind. So I would recommend going for a combatant first and then maybe farming up for a Kineticist. Combatant definitely can do everything that Kineticist can do. Kineticist on the high end budget just has still a lot more single target damage compared to combatant. But yeah, otherwise, thank you guys for watching and hope you enjoyed this overview of the Kineticist and what you want to look out for. Yeah, leave a like down below, subscribe for more videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.